snaps pictures of Russian warships headed to Cuba for official visit. We'll talk to Mike Weiner and Wes Peters. Mike was alive during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Many of you were as well. Here we go. Bond giant PIMCO sees another wave of bank failures coming as commercial mortgage trouble mounts. We'll get to this one as well. High exposure to commercial real estate poses a risk to regional banks, says Moody's. Anna Arzov. Here we go. There's a stock market crash coming in 2025 as the bubble of all bubbles bursts. That's what one economist says. The greatest theft in the world. We'll get to that. And we've got some other things we want to talk to you about. Gentlemen, welcome to the broadcast. Wes Peters, Mike Weiner, thanks for being with us.
Our pleasure.
Good evening, Brandon. How are you today?
I'm hanging in there. It's a great evening here in the Mid-South. Hey, I want to go right away to this one we just talked about. Cruise ship passenger snaps picture of Russian warship headed to Cuba for an official visit. Let's play a little bit of this video here.
Flotilla, including a nuclear-powered submarine. It is being tracked by U.S. Navy and Coast Guard ships as the Russian flotilla is heading to Cuba. And out front has obtained pictures. A passenger on a celebrity cruise line ship, look at this picture, off the coast of Florida, took these pictures as the warships passed by. He says they were just a couple thousand feet away, and he saw U.S. ships and planes tracking them. The passenger telling us, quote, "I just happened to look outside and I saw one of the ships. So I went outside to investigate. I could see 6 ships at one time across the horizon. There have been ships in sight most of the day." I mean, just think about that. Most of the day, Russian warships next to a U.S. cruise ship. He adds, quote, "I was surprised how close they are. We are not that far offshore." Meantime, in Moscow, Russian state television is touting the deployment of the ships off the U.S. coast as tensions increase with the U.S. And Matthew Chance is out front from Moscow tonight.
These are the first images of the Russian flotilla steaming towards Cuba, just 90 miles off the US coast. The Russian Defense Ministry says the strike group, including a nuclear-powered submarine, the Kazan, armed with modern caliber cruise missiles, is practicing the use of high-precision weapons. But it's really about Putin flexing his muscles on the international stage. Led by the flagship of Russia's northern fleet, the Admiral Gorshkov, which Russia's defense ministry says is normally equipped with latest Zircon hypersonic missiles. This is meant to deliver a powerful message to Washington. Russian state television has been celebrating the naval deployment, placing some of Russia's most powerful vessels in Cuban waters. The American media has been discussing the event, reports the Russian news anchor, claiming the Pentagon has no idea where our submarine is positioned. In fact, US officials are downplaying.
We'll hold it right there. Very interesting story. Very interesting story. But of course, it's a little bit of propaganda in here because what they're not telling you guys is that NATO and the West have been poking a stick in Russia's eye over and over and over again. We got 10 CIA bases reportedly in Ukraine. We've had the CIA on the ground over there for a long time training the Ukrainians. We have British and American troops over there on the ground, even if they're not wearing their uniforms, according to numerous reports. They are helping them key in the coordinates to go after Russia's early advanced warning system. I am no apologist for Putin. But what I am is a reporter and a journalist and a news guy. And I just tell it the way it is. The neocons, Lindsey Graham, he came out and said the other day that there are trillions of dollars in natural resources in Ukraine. We can't let Russia get that. Did he slip up and tell us what this is really all about? Which is what a former general, was his name Butler Smedley or Smedley Butler?
Butler.
Yeah, general, 3 or 4 star general from a gazillion of years ago said every war is about corporatism. Is that what this is really all about? So when they say that Putin's flexing his muscles, well, maybe he has a reason to flex his muscles when the West and Great Britain are providing weapons and encouraging this to strike, including fighter jets, to strike deep inside Russia. If Putin's war is with the federal government, not the American people, he might find a lot of the American people join his side for at least a period of time. The enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing. So I wonder, you guys are both smiling at that. I wonder if Putin is actually literally politically thinking, if I just make all my issues about D.C., the federal government, I might have a lot of Americans in America on the lower 48 that are all for with me. So I'm not picking a side on this one. I'm for a constitutional form of government. I think the federal government is the greatest terrorist organization now, probably in America, in the world as well. But Putin may be making some political calculations here. But this whole idea that somehow Putin's just flexing his muscles and being crazy. No, the crazies are the people in Great Britain and in D.C. that keep escalating this thing with Putin. Wes? Go ahead, Michael. Go ahead, Michael.
Again, I was alive for that and most of the Roman wars and all that type of stuff like Brandon you like to go into. But I was a really young boy in elementary school, and my sister was terrified. In 62 October, when the Cuban Missile Crisis happened, the United States government was prepared to go to nuclear war with Russia just for getting ships near Cuba, just getting them near Cuba. Now, because of our government, which is more concerned, as you are talking about, financially than they are about politically and geopolitically, we are allowing these people to come 90 miles off our shore to set up whatever bases they want to break the Monroe Doctrine. We can even go into the Monroe Doctrine, which is another issue that President Kennedy went into in 62, about them coming into the South America, which they already are. China and Russia are already in South America right now, and we're doing nothing about it. The problem is, you're absolutely right, Brandon. This is all about money. Who do we have running this country right now? A guy who's been making a living and went into politics with nothing and has been making a living off of government. And that's what the government's doing right now.
And apparently influence peddling. And apparently making his money off influence peddling.
Russia and China are playing chess. We are playing checkers. And the bottom line, Biden, who has probably made more bad geopolitical decisions than anybody ever since he's been in office, now makes them geopolitically and financially. And this situation which is going on can be corrected. But right now, it's going to take a while. It's not going to wave a wand and it's all going to happen overnight. These people that are getting so close to the United States in Cuba and in the South America and in the Caribbean, be aware of the fact that, and then people coming across our border that are 20 to 40-year-old young people from China, what's this all about? If you understand what I mean.
Yeah,
what's
exactly right. Wes, what are your thoughts?
Well, and let's not forget, Brandon, that the West has frozen $300 billion of Russia's money, and they're looking to double down and freeze more assets of Russia. And, this is something that goes way back. You're exactly right. If you look at historically, we're famous for going into other countries, destroying their infrastructure, their cities, their towns. And then lo and behold, after the war's over, U.S. contractors such as Halliburton roll in to rebuild those infrastructures. And you look at all the politicians in Washington that are on the inside that know ahead of time who's going to get those contracts. It's like Paul Pelosi. The guy's never made a bad investment trade in his life. If you look at his trading history, if a new drug's coming out, lo and behold, he's bought a position in that. If some bad news is coming out, before it comes out, he sold his positions. So it is all about money and greed. And Russia's steaming towards Cuba because they know they don't fear the United States at all. And this goes back to Obama. Remember Obama's red line, don't cross this red line and use chemical weapons. And what happens? They move the red line further down. And so this is a test, and they know that we're not going to do anything whatsoever. You look at all of our ships over in the Middle East that have been attacked, or bases, attacked over 80 times. And nothing was done about it. And then when they do finally do a strike, it's some ammo dump somewhere in the middle of the desert. So I'm not one bit surprised. And I think as the election gets closer, if China and Russia believe that Trump is going to win, if they believe the polls and they think Trump's actually going to get in office, I think they're between now and November, they're only going to get more aggressive. And don't forget, China still has its eye on Taiwan. And, they'll probably watch what happens with Russia's ships right off Cuba there, 90 miles from our coast. And they're probably going to act accordingly.
Oh, of course they are. Yeah, absolutely.
China's already in here with police stations and all the rest of the stuff, buying our farmland, doing things that we never would allowed previously, which is going on right now. And you're absolutely right. There's a lot of provocation that's going on. We're very provocative as the United States in trying to villainize Russia. We did that with Trump when we tried to say everything is Russia collusion, like the notebook was Russia collusion, the laptop. And guess what? It's not Russian collusion. It's collusion within the United States.
And what have we done about, what did we ever do about the balloons flying over
Nothing.
Our missile silos? We did nothing at all.
Yeah, absolutely nothing. Let's go back to Cuba, 1962, Kennedy. There is a movie that I've watched many times, 13 Days. Let me just play the official trailer, just give a sense for those maybe who were not alive then of the tension, because it seems to be a very historical movie that came out several years ago. It gives us an idea of how we are approaching, I'm not saying we're at, but certainly approaching what was being dealt with by the Kennedy administration.
What is it?
On Sunday morning, one of our U-2s took these pictures. The Soviets are putting ballistic missiles into Cuba.
Morning, gentlemen. Let's have it.
In the southeast, as far north as Washington, D.C., are in range of these weapons, and in the event of a launch would have only 5 minutes of warning.
In those 5 minutes, they could kill 80 million Americans. We have to get those missiles out.
The Soviet understands only one language, action.
Sir, I think we have to issue pre-invasion orders.
I got a bad feeling about what's going on in there.
We've got a bunch of smart guys. We lock them in a room and they come up with some solution.
Airstrikes is a minimum response the Joint Chiefs will accept.
No. There is more than one option here.
America is in danger from nuclear war.
This is a setup. They want a war, Jack, and they're arranging things to get one.
You're in a pretty bad fix, Mr. President.
Well, maybe you haven't noticed you're in it with me.
3, 2.
Good evening, my fellow citizens.
A lot of things are going wrong today. When things go wrong, people will become more nervous, and it will be very hard to avoid going to war.
Sometimes there is only one right choice, and you thank God when it's so clear.
Stop that firing! Nobody ever gets between us.
I'm prepared to wait for my answer until hell freezes over.
I am the Commander-in-Chief of the United States, and I say when we go to war.
Well, indeed, the history does show that those generals were pushing for war. We have now had declassified documents like Operations, Operations Northwinds or Northwoods, that showed that the Pentagon generals, some of them were saying, hey, let's set up false flags down in Florida. Let's carry out bombings or terrorist attacks in Florida, and we'll blame it on Cubans, and this will then get the American people to want to go into Cuba. The American people had no stomach for that, but apparently the deep state was going on clearly during the Kennedy administration, and he thought these guys were nuts. Of course, we also know that he eventually fired the CIA director, Dulles, who ended up being on the Warren Commission to, I think, cover up the assassination of that President John F. Kennedy, who fired him because, again, he was going against the deep state. He was going against the military and the military-industrial complex and the Federal Reserve and so many of these groups. But notice, again, these guys were pushing him into war. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed these many, many decades later. These guys in D.C., the neocons, the people in Great Britain, they seem to be pushing us toward war, Michael Weiner.
Well, I think something has changed. We had a great leader then. We don't have a great leader. We don't even have a leader. So we don't even know who's calling the shots right now in this administration. We have no idea. We just hear things coming out and it just comes together and that's it. But right now, Donald Trump is a guy who's going against the deep state. So they have used every power possible, both financially, through the judicial system, doing things unconstitutionally, everything they possibly can to stop him, because this is something that's not been around. Actually, some people believe it started in after World War II, the CIA formation from the OSS, but it actually goes back all the way to Woodrow Wilson. So this deep state garbage is something that, in order for us to save our republic, it has to be cut out. And if we don't cut it out, great people like Kennedy will never get in again, or like Trump or Reagan.
Yeah, well, here it is, Operation Northwoods. Anyone can look it up. There's the declassified document. That's just one page where, again, the CIA and the military-industrial complex were calling for carrying out and staging false flag terrorist attacks in the U.S., blame it on Cuba so we could go to war. Operation Northwoods, memo from March 13th, 1962. It's several pages. You ought to look it up. Michael, or Wes, before we move on, do you want to make any comment?
Well, I was going to kind of say the opposite of Michael. I was going to tell the American people they could sleep easy at night, because I'm sure Joe Biden and his generals and Joint Chiefs of Staff are working late into the evening to solve this, that have a deterrent. Of course, I say that jokingly. Biden's probably going to find out today when he watches CNN that there's Russian ships steaming towards Cuba. He'll say, I learned about it when you did on the news.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, guys. What do people need to do to prepare? I mean, I don't give financial advice. I give financial opinion. What do you guys recommend people do for we have so many things we're going to get into. Banking collapse, real estate collapse, so many things going on. The BRICS, the end of the American petrodollar, going to World War III. I mean, what should people be doing, in your opinion?
If you remember, Brandon, when COVID started and everyone's running to get their masks and their hand sanitizer and their toilet paper, those shelves were empty, and then if you could find those supplies, the price gouging was unbelievable. So you want to be, as I always say, proactive. You want to have freeze-dried food. You want to have water, even water filtration. You want to have a generator, flashlights, batteries, additional medications. You want to make a list of all the things that you would need, canned goods, and have that in advance. Before COVID started, I've been a little bit of a prepper for some time. And I remember my daughters were in high school and they each had a girlfriend over after school doing homework and eating a snack at the table. And I had some boxes show up. And I pull out these tubs out of these boxes, and the girls are like, "What's that?" And I turned it around towards them. I said, "It's spaghetti," And they're like, "What are you buying that for?" And I said, "Well, hopefully we never need it, but if we do, you're going to be thankful that we have it."
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I didn't ask you to say that, nor did I know you're going to say that, did I, Wes?
No.
Okay.
It's it's common sense.
Yeah. So with that being said, because I am a capitalist, we got to fund this program and fund the network. Take a look at this, folks. Now that he's recommending this, here you go, worldviewbeef.com. This is not beef crumbles, folks. This is real prepper steak. This is real steak, 100% all natural, no mRNA jabs. It'll last at least 10 years. You just hydrate it in water for about 12 minutes, and then add it to your food. Cook it, warm it up. As you see there, worldviewbeef.com, worldviewbeef.com. Here's a bag of it right here. This is ribeye. Again, we're using this to supplement our freeze-dried food. He mentioned the freeze-dried food. Here's our store, www.tvstore.com, www.tvstore.com. Just click emergency freeze-dried food. Just click that. It'll all pop up the various kinds of freeze-dried food we have. We have 3 months, 6 month. We have a year. We have all kinds of freeze-dried food available to you as you scroll through this store. And we highly recommend you get it. Not only do we have emergency freeze-dried food, we have emergency supplies. So again, click on emergency foods. Click on, that's emergency food supplies right there. But you need to click on emergency supplies as well right here. And when you click on that, all supplies, then what you find is all kinds of things. Potassium iodine to protect your thyroid. We had about 1,000 bottles of that. That's gone fast. That's protect your thyroid in the event of a nuclear event. 100-hour candles, indoor stoves, outdoor stoves, surgical kits, water purifiers, as he mentioned. Let's go to another one. Let's go to worldviewtalk.com. He mentioned, again, generators. I have a solar generator If you click that red button, it'll move on over. You can see the rest of them. I have this one right here, the EcoFlow Delta Pro 400. Now, I have a Generac that runs this whole studio, but if the natural gas line gets cut or disrupted somehow, I need a backup for my backup. Not that I can run the whole studio on this. Some of these, they say you can run your whole house, but at least I'd be able to charge lights and flashlights and cell phones for whatever, if they would work. I could certainly charge my satellite phone, and you can get one of those right here. I have this one right here, the 9555 satellite phone. You can get these phones for free with a very reasonable monthly plan. And of course, you get about 450 minutes of text and talk. They have other plans available as well that you can get. Again, these are satellite phones. A lot of families are going over to these, by the way, because not only are they more dependable, but they don't know where you're at. You're within a 50-mile radius. That's the best they can do. Whereas your cell phones are tracking you within a foot or so. They do have cell phones that don't track you and don't store your data. So again, worldviewtalk.com. And then he mentioned meds. We highly recommend you go to twc.health/Brannon, twc.health/Brannon. You get these meds on hand. Hover over med kits and look at all of them. You got the first aid emergency kit. You got the travel emergency. You have the medical emergency kit. But this is the one also I'm very much demanding that people get. This is the contagion kit. Should they push this bird flu pandemic on us, don't be shocked if they withhold meds from people like they did during COVID, ivermectin, HCQ. You're going to want to have these things. I saw another article today. I guess this guy was like a Harvard trained guy, and he was saying you better get these things on hand because the medical industrial complex isn't going to want you to have cheap and very reliable treatment. They're going to want you to go through their regiment, which we know their protocols killed a lot of people, right? That's what a lot of doctors are saying, MDs. So go to twc.health/Brannon. Use that URL. You'll save money and support the broadcast at the same time. So I thought I'd drop all that in there because Wes just laid out a bunch of things: communications, generators, medication, food. And we actually have all that for you. I see you were trying to jump in and make a comment, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, the other major thing that you brought up is how does it affect us and what do they do monetarily? Because that's what we're here for. And the reality is these people right now that we talk to, there's so many of them that call up in a moment, they'll watch a show and they'll say, okay, we need to do something. We need to take care of it. Wes and I spend time, we go over it. And then we're fighting the exact thing that they're trying to protect themselves against. They call up their financial person, which we're the Antichrist to. Why are we the Antichrist? Because we're not a situation where we're sitting back trying to make ongoing money. We are not a situation where we're trying to generate income. We are trying to be a caboose. We're trying to protect the train. We're trying to make sure that when these problems happen, you can work through it. And the problem that many people do not realize when they call up, I just talked to somebody the other day, called me 2 days ago, said, I desperately want to do something. I need to take care of it. We spent a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of information, and then calls me back up 2 days later and says, well, I've discussed this with my finance. And I said, I really don't care. This is your money. Just like you're talking to these people about eating dinner and all the rest. Do they invite the whole world over to their table to eat? The reality is this is your money, this is your finances, this is your way of life for your family. And if you're going to protect it, stop thinking about what everybody else is going to do and how they're going to tell you what to do, and man up or woman up.
Well, here's the question. Is your financial planner going to write the check and make up the difference?
No.
After you follow their advice and you're standing there without any ability to respond to what's happened. And again, no one's saying move 50% of your assets into precious metals. You're talking 5, 10, 15%. I mean, if he's going to lose everything he's worked for, your financial planner, because you move a small percentage of your money outside of his control, then he's not a very good financial planner now, is he? And by the way, not to paint all financial planners, but go look at how many of these financial planners have filed for bankruptcy, that have serious financial problems. I've known some of them right here in the Mid-South. They're financial planners, but they file bankruptcy. And I've known more than one of them to do that. So the point is, be very careful having someone else tell you about how to manage your money. If some of you knew how well off your financial planner was managing their own personal money, I think you'd be shocked and horrified to think you're taking financial advice from that person. That's my opinion. Let's go to this video on the great taking and get a response from you guys on this.
That we were not told about. So in 2008, I noticed the first failure of a broker-dealer. So I was expecting there to be a lot of insolvencies. I was paying attention. And the thing that shocked me was that the client accounts in this broker-dealer were encumbered in the bankruptcy estate of the broker. That never could have happened before. In all of the history of securities, they were personal property. And if the broker failed, you would say, I'm sorry you're out of business. Here's where you can transfer my assets. That did not happen in this case. So I started digging into what could possibly have changed. And this was as serious as a heart attack, given that we were going into this meltdown at that time. That's when I discovered it had been done through changes to the Uniform Commercial Code in the United States. This had been done in all 50 states. So it was something that could be done very quietly over a long period of time and did not have to be done at the federal level, didn't draw attention. What they did was to create a new legal construct of a security entitlement. Now, prior to this, as I said, securities for 400 years were personal property. This concept of a security entitlement severed that. That's its purpose. So what people then have in institutions and pension funds, even sophisticated investors, all they have is an entitlement. It's a claim, it's a contractual claim, which is very weak in the event of insolvency. So it's an appearance of ownership. It's sometimes referred to as beneficial ownership, which sounds nice, but what it means is that you receive dividends, you receive a proxy, you are the owner of title. You can, of course, you can buy it and sell it, but you can see in documents that I've found that the legal owner is actually the entity that controls the security with a secured interest. They are the legal owners of the property. So now you have a contractual claim. Next, all of the securities are held in pooled form. So you have no specific identification. It used to be that with paper certificates, they were numbered. You had a specific numbered bond or stock share certificate. So now they're fungible bulk, book entry form, pooled. Further, we know, and it is absolutely irrefutable from the Fed's own response to a questionnaire from the EU, that even segregated accounts, even people or institutions that have been told that their securities are segregated, are in the same pool and entitled to only a pro rata share in the event of an insolvency.
All right, let's hold it right there due to time. We're going to have to move. We're going to got like a minute and a half left. Wes, what does all this mean?
It means you don't own your stocks. You know, it means that if that firm gets in trouble and is hemorrhaging money, that your stocks can be sold to cover their losses. And everything is commingled. Like you said, stock certificates used to have serial numbers on them. They no longer have that. They're all in one big pool, and fungible means that they're all the same. So they put them all in one pool, just like dollars. So nobody knows this really. Hardly anybody knows you do not own your stocks. And that's just a snippet of the Great Taking documentary. And anybody that wants to watch the whole thing, reach out to me and I will send it to you. And it's long. It's an hour and 11 minutes long, I believe, but well worth taking the time to watch because there is a lot of information in there that most people have no clue.
So again, to get that, he'll send it to you if you just text him, 602-558-8585, 602-558-8585. Text him and Wes will see you get the link to the full documentary, The Great Taking. Also, he'll send you that free no obligation packet of information, how you can take possession of precious metals and not be under their thumb. Closing comment, Michael, we got about 15 seconds.
Wes is absolutely right what he's saying, but I'll make a very simple comment about when they talk about the stocks, think about the people who are holding funds and hedge funds with Bear Stearns. They lost everything because those funds were held by the company. Same thing. Same thing. You have nothing. You don't own a thing. It's all the companies.
Again, maybe that's what Klaus Schwab says by 2030, you'll own nothing and be happy. 602-558-8585. You want the free no obligation packet on precious metals. And then maybe how to put gold into your IRA, which we should talk about a little bit more tomorrow. So we can do that as well. 602-558-8585. 602-558-8585. Just text Wes your name and address. He'll send that packet of information on. Thank you, gentlemen. That's the Worldview Financial Report for this evening, June 12th, 2024. Thanks for watching. May God save America. Tonight on the Worldview Report, a newly released video of Nancy Pelosi talking to her staffers on January 6, 2021, shows her admitting that the whole J6 debacle could have been avoided if she had done one thing, which she refused to do. Hunter Biden was convicted by a jury on Tuesday of lying about his illegal drug use so he could buy a handgun. A U.S. government-affiliated NGO in Ukraine has published an enemies list that includes American journalists, business leaders, and media outlets, websites, and basically anyone who has been critical of the Biden administration's support for Ukraine in its war with Russia. We also have new information on the IDF raid that freed 4 hostages from the grip of Hamas terrorists. And Joe Biden commits America to what many call an economic suicide pact. All these stories and more as the Worldview Report begins right now.
This is Worldview Report with host Brandon House. Whether it is news from the nation's capital or your state capital, from the classroom to the boardroom, from national security to national and local news that impacts you and your family.